I ultimately cost my tyrannical boss's job, his marriage, and his future. And it all started with him trying to destroy my career. This happened a few years ago. And because I recently left the company, I feel it's finally safe to share my story. My name is Liam. And at 35, I was working for a major wholesale company in Belgium. I was second in command at a large branch. And I'd always gotten along with my superiors. I was on a clear path to becoming a branch manager myself one day. But then, out of the blue, my old manager got promoted to headquarters and was replaced by a man I'll call Julian. Julian was a few years older than me and introduced himself to the team as a powerhouse who would lead us to become the most successful branch in the company. He claimed to be deaf to the word can't, and declared he was a winner who only surrounds himself with other winners. We all rolled our eyes. We knew immediately we had a character on our hands. From the very first week, it was painfully clear that Julian knew nothing about our company, our products, or how to lead a team. He acted like he knew everything better than everyone else and had a nasty habit of pushing his work onto others. As his second in command, my plate suddenly overflowed. My full-time job instantly became 2 full-time jobs, as I was now expected to do most of Julian's work as well. There was never a thank you or a good job. Just a pile of tasks dropped on my desk. Surely, things couldn't get worse. But they did. One day, I received a phone call. The man on the other end introduced himself as an important manager of our biggest competitor. His French was terrible, which immediately made me suspicious. He offered me a job if I was willing to share company secrets and poach some of our customers. I politely declined his absurd offer. An hour later, Julian called me into his office. He confronted me about the phone call, admitting he was the one who called me. He was testing my loyalty to the company and to him. He ended the baffling conversation with the words, "And I will continue to test you from time to time in the future." He had prank called me himself. While I was drowning in work, he was spending his free time playing these pathetic games. This was the moment I realized I wasn't just dealing with an incompetent boss, but a malicious one. At that moment, Julian made a critical error. He showed his hand, revealing a level of pettiness that would ultimately become the very tool of his own destruction. Things deteriorated further. Julian did less and less. And I'd often find him reading the newspaper or playing online poker in his office, not even bothering to hide it. When our branch missed its targets, he would round us all up and scream at us, threatening to fire people if they didn't have what it took, all while contributing nothing himself. To set an example, he fired a few new workers on short-term contracts and didn't replace them, forcing the rest of us to work 40+ hours on a 35-hour contract just to keep things running. Well, almost everybody, a department head I'll call Amelia, always left at noon on Fridays. And Julian certainly wasn't working overtime. He was gone by 2 p.m. every Tuesday for his weekly Thai massage. And he'd come in later and later every Thursday, recovering from his Wednesday night soccer and beer sessions. And, mysteriously, he was also gone every Friday afternoon. Just like Amelia. He claimed he had meetings at headquarters in Brussels with the big boss of the entire company, Mr. Dubois. I knew it was bullcrap. He particularly enjoyed calling the youngest employees, especially the females, into his office to yell at them. But despite his tyranny, our team pulled together. And thanks in part to a local competitor going out of business, We hit our targets for several months in a row. At the company's New Year's reception, Julian was called on stage. Mr. Du Bois, the head of the entire company, handed him the Manager of the Year award. Instead of thanking his team, Julian thanked Mr. Du Bois, thanked his pregnant wife, and then proceeded to compliment himself on his business acumen and his ability to get the best out of people. I nearly vomited. He was like the evil version of Steve Carell from The Office, but with an even bigger ego. This reveals Julian's greatest fatal flaw, his insatiable ego. An arrogance so blinding that he believed he was untouchable, which ultimately sealed his fate. A few weeks later, I was working late and happened to glance at the security monitor. I was shocked to see Julian on the parking lot, kissing Amelia. So that's where they went on Friday afternoons. I knew Amelia. She was a pretty girl, but I always felt she was a bit odd. My girlfriend at the time, Chloe, had even gone to the same high school and university as her. What a small world. But wait. Hadn't Julian just thanked his pregnant wife in that nauseating speech? The man was cheating on his pregnant wife. He was the worst of the worst. His ego manifested in other ways. He controlled our vacation days like a Roman emperor. The first year, I requested a week off in October to go to Greece with Chloe and her family. He denied it, only to grant it 2 weeks before the trip was scheduled. By then, it was too late. Chloe's family had postponed, and my trip to Athens was ruined. He did it just to show me he was the boss. The next year, I requested my vacation again. And again, he denied it, claiming he needed me for an inventory count that wasn't even my responsibility. But this time, I had a plan. I knew he couldn't afford to lose me, since I was doing his job for him. I decided to use one of his own tricks. I called his office, disguising my voice, and pretended to be a manager from another company, calling for a reference check on Liam. I wanted him to think I was looking for another job, hoping it would scare him into approving my vacation. He fell for it completely. He put on his important person voice and proceeded to trash me. He said I was unreliable, always late, sloppy, and forgetful. He was actively trying to prevent me from getting another job. But it did give him a scare because the very next day, my vacation was magically approved. I was finally going to Greece. Or so I thought. A month before my trip, after I had booked and paid for everything, he called me into his office. He rescinded my approval, claiming he had an important business meeting in Prague and one of us had to be at the office. I was speechless but thought fast. I demanded he put the cancellation in writing, telling him my girlfriend would not be amused. He laughed and sent me an email confirming my holiday was cancelled because of his trip to Prague. Little did he know, that email was a crucial piece of evidence for the case I was slowly building against him. I was trapped. I'd heard through the grapevine that he'd blocked my internal promotions, branding me as incompetent. He was sabotaging my career both inside and outside the company, ensuring I remained his personal workhorse. I was his serf, and I desperately needed a way out. Then, Lady Luck walked into the room. The week I was supposed to be in Greece, Chloe went with her family. One evening, she called me, telling me to check my WhatsApp. She had sent me screenshots from Facebook. It was Amelia, posting pictures of herself with Julian, in Switzerland. He was skiing with his mistress. There was no business trip. That absolute disgrace of a human being had cancelled my vacation for the second year in a row so he could cheat on his wife. He had no idea Chloe and Amelia were Facebook friends. And just like that, with a single notification, Julian's carefully constructed world of lies began to fracture. This gave me the fuel I needed. I had proof. But then, things got even more interesting. Just 2 weeks prior, I'd been talking to another branch manager who also despised Julian. He let slip a critical piece of information: Julian had only gotten his job because his wife, a lovely woman I'll call Isabel, was Mr. Dubois's daughter. It all clicked into place. He wasn't just cheating on his wife. He was cheating on the big boss's pregnant daughter. Hallelujah! The universe was finally smiling upon me. I had pictures of him kissing another woman. It was time to set things in motion. Stuck at work while my girlfriend was in Athens, I sent an email to all branch managers, including Mr. Dubois, who rarely responded. I requested extra help, stating I couldn't reach my own manager, Julian, because he was on a business trip and had asked not to be disturbed. I knew Julian had officially requested a personal holiday from Mr. Dubois. So my email was designed to catch the big boss's attention by highlighting the contradiction. It worked. Mr. Dubois replied almost immediately, telling me Julian was on a personal holiday in Switzerland visiting an old school friend, but that he would grant my request for backup. I replied, forwarding the email where Julian had explicitly stated he was canceling my vacation for a business trip to Prague. Mr. Dubois said he would talk to Julian about the odd mix-up. The next day, Julian called me from Switzerland. Absolutely furious. I was prepared and recorded the entire call. "You are nothing," he screamed. "I can squash you like a fly. If I decide to take your holiday, there's nothing you can do about it. You gonna sit there like a little girl and take it all like the B**** that you are. The big boss doesn't need to know I told you I was on a business trip. You leave that senile old fart out of this. You hear me? Senile old fart." It was pure gold. I knew Mr. Dubois would have a field day with that one. I needed more proof. The pictures were good, but he might try to claim they were old. I needed to know where he and Amelia went on their Friday afternoons. Then I remembered he had once given me his company email password so I could do more of his work. The password was Anderlecht, the name of his favorite Belgian soccer team and, ironically, the biggest rival to my own. I wondered if he was foolish enough to use the same password for his personal email. Of course, he was. I found everything: his Tinder profile, emails with another woman from the Philippines, and the entire email history with Amelia, which revealed their affair started long before Isabel even got pregnant. Gotcha. Motherf******. When Julian returned from his trip, he acted as if nothing had happened. I kept monitoring his email and struck gold again. I found an email confirming a spa visit for 2 at 3 p.m. and a dinner reservation for 2 at 6 p.m. for the upcoming Friday. The final phase of my plan was ready. I printed the Facebook photos of Julian and Amelia in Switzerland. I put them in an envelope with a note addressed to his wife, Isabel. It read, "Hey, we don't know each other, but I felt you needed to see this. Your husband is having an affair. He went to Switzerland with this woman, Amelia. Here is her address. email, Facebook, and phone number. He told his boss he was visiting an old friend and told his coworkers he was on a business trip in Prague. Both are lies. I have hacked your husband's email. His password is Anderlecht. Check the latest emails he received. They're meeting at, name of restaurant, at 6 p.m. today. After visiting a spa at 3 p.m. I am sorry to throw this in your face, but you deserve better. Signed, Anonymous. My girlfriend, Chloe, had encouraged me. If you were cheating on my pregnant ass, she'd said, I'd want to know sooner rather than later. She needs to know. That Friday, I called in late to work, citing car trouble. I drove to Julian and Isabel's house. Saw her car in the driveway. Dropped the envelope in their mailbox. Rang the bell. And sped away. Back at the office, I sent an email to Mr. Du Bois, stating I was resigning due to Julian's constant absences. I ended the email by saying, and I included a voice recording you'd find very interesting to hear for yourself. It's Julian calling me. Right after you called him in Switzerland. 15 minutes later, Mr. Du Bois himself called me. He was stunned by the recording. Thanked me for sending it. And asked me to hold off on my resignation. He said he would handle it. He'll just deny everything and take his anger out on me. I said, No. No. Mr. Du Bois replied, I'm visiting my daughter and grandson this afternoon. And I'll swing by your office before that. Ding. 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 He was going to visit Isabel, the daughter whose world I had just nuked. Before confronting Julian, it was better than I could have planned. I decided to keep my mouth shut about the affair and about Julian's impending afternoon absence. I would let Mr. Du Bois walk in and see for himself. At noon, Amelia left. 15 minutes later, Julian left. At 4 p.m., Mr. Du Bois entered our building, looking visibly upset. It was showtime. Where is Julian? He asked. I swear, Leonardo DiCaprio should have handed me his Oscar. I acted surprised. Oh? You were coming here to talk to him? I must have misunderstood. Why didn't you talk to him in Brussels? At headquarters? He's there every Friday. No? He always leaves at noon because he's meeting you every week. I could see the dominoes falling in Mr. Du Bois's mind. His face went blank. He pulled out his phone and made a call. I overheard him say, No. He's not here. Apparently, he went somewhere. I can only imagine Isabel was on the other end, finally telling him about the spa and the restaurant. He listened. Then said, Oh really? I know that place. Okay. I'll come over. He thanked me. Told me he'd take care of it. And left. The entire weekend, I was filled with questions. When I came to work on Monday, Julian was gone. A temp from headquarters was there, telling us Julian wouldn't be in that week. He never came back. Years later, after I finally got my promotion and was working at headquarters, I befriended a board member. When I mentioned I used to work under Julian, he laughed. That guy? Man. Let me tell you a story. He filled in the blanks. not knowing I was the architect of the whole affair. Mr. Du Bois had been grooming Julien, his son-in-law, to take over the entire company. But then it all came out, he was cheating on Isabelle with multiple women and stealing time from the company. As one commenter on my original story rightly pointed out, what I did wasn't just revenge. It was exposing the truth about him. Mr. Du Bois and Isabelle had walked in on him and Amelia at that restaurant. It's a scene I would give my left testicle to have witnessed. Isabelle divorced him. Mr. Du Bois, fearing legal repercussions from firing him, demoted him to a meaningless position in the French-speaking part of Belgium. Julien, who only spoke a thick Flemish dialect that even other Dutch speakers struggled to understand, was completely lost. He couldn't communicate, had no power, no friends, no connections. He quit after a few months and is now working a low-wage job. Another commenter perfectly captured the sentiment that he had to be taken down, imagining the mess he would have made in everyone's lives if he had actually taken over the company. Amelia walked away unharmed and got married a year later. Chloe and I were even invited to the wedding. Mr. Du Bois retired and sold the company. And Isabelle apparently got back together with the guy she dated before Julien. I don't feel bad for him. Not one bit. This narcissistic, self-centered monster wanted to destroy my life and the lives of my colleagues. I stopped him. Saved my own career. And in the end, everyone was better off without him. This story is a powerful reminder that arrogance and cruelty will inevitably lead to your own downfall. And you should never underestimate the people you try to crush. What would you have done in my shoes? Have you ever had a boss who got exactly what they deserved? Share your story below.